You know that special kind of rage that hits at 2:47 a.m. when you're scrolling through your husband's phone and realize his late client meetings involve significantly less PowerPoint and significantly more missionary position? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. I'm Willa Grimshaw, 34 years old, marketing consultant, resident of Maple Ridge, Connecticut's most aggressively manicured gated community, and apparently, the last person to know my husband was auditioning for a remake of Unfaithful without bothering to mention it to me. Troy, my husband of 9 years, personal trainer, age 36, owner of the world's most punchable smile, had been suspiciously attached to his phone for months. I'd noticed, obviously. I'm not blind. But I'd chalked it up to his growing client list at Apex Fitness downtown. Turns out his client retention strategies were a lot more hands-on than I'd imagined. The texts were creative. Lots of eggplant emojis. Lots of "can't wait to see you again," followed by addresses I recognized because, plot twist incoming, they were all in our neighborhood. My hands were shaking as I scrolled, that sick feeling spreading through my chest like I'd swallowed battery acid. And then I saw her name in his contacts. G-H-O-A. G, as in Giselle. Giselle Montgomery, 32. Stay-at-home wife, professional Lululemon model, Range Rover driver. The woman who always gave me that sympathetic head tilt at neighborhood association meetings, like I was some rescue puppy she felt obligated to acknowledge. The same woman who'd commented on my brave choice to wear last season's Athleta to the block party. That Giselle. Basically the definition of a hot mess hiding behind designer sunglasses. My husband was sleeping with the HOA president's wife. I sat there in our king-sized bed, the one we'd picked out together at Pottery Barn, the one I'd agonized over thread count for, and felt something shift inside me. Not sadness, not even shock anymore, just this cold, crystalline clarity that felt almost refreshing. See, here's what nobody tells you about discovering infidelity. After the initial gut punch, there's this weird moment of power. Like suddenly you're playing poker and you're the only one who knows everyone else's cards. Troy was snoring next to me, completely oblivious. Giselle was probably in her McMansion 3 streets over, equally clueless that I'd cracked their little code. And somewhere in this godforsaken suburb was Giselle's husband, Pierce Montgomery, hotshot corporate attorney, 40 years old, works 70-hour weeks according to neighborhood gossip, who definitely didn't know his trophy wife was getting her cardio in a very non-gym setting. I could have done the classic thing. Confrontation, tears, thrown his clothes on the lawn, posted a dramatic Facebook status that would have had the entire Maple Ridge community group chat buzzing for weeks. But that felt basic, predictable, the kind of thing that would make me the neighborhood tragedy instead of the villain. And I was so tired of being pitied. So instead, I screenshot everything. Every text, every photo, every "I miss your body" message that made me want to bleach my eyeballs. I created a folder on my laptop labeled Landscaping Ideas, because Troy never gave a care about our yard, and saved it all there. Then I put his phone back exactly where I'd found it, rolled over and stared at our bedroom ceiling until sunrise. Planning. By morning, I had it figured out. The beautiful, perfect, absolutely unhinged plan that would either make me a genius or get me a restraining order. Possibly both. "Troy, honey," I said over coffee the next morning. Wednesday, March 12th, if we're keeping track. He looked up from his protein shake, all innocent blue eyes and carefully maintained stubble. "I was thinking we should have Pierce and Giselle Montgomery over for dinner this weekend. You know, make an effort with the neighbors. I feel like we've been so isolated lately." I watched his face do this fascinating thing where confusion fought with panic, fought with attempting to look casual. Talk about a train wreck in real time. "The Montgomerys? I don't really know them." "Oh, but Giselle's always so friendly at the HOA meetings." I smiled, sipping my coffee like I wasn't internally screaming. "And Pierce seems nice. Works downtown, right? You guys probably have a lot in common. Successful men in their 30s, taking care of business." I let that last part hang there, watching him squirm. "I don't know, Will. I'm pretty busy with clients this weekend. Reschedule them." My voice was still sweet, but there was steel underneath now. It's important to me. Community building and all that. Besides, when's the last time we entertained? He agreed. Of course he did. Because refusing would have been suspicious, and Troy thought he was so clever, so in control. Men like him always do, right up until the moment they realize they're not. I texted Giselle that afternoon through the neighborhood group chat. Hey, would you and Pierce like to come over for dinner Saturday? Troy and I would love to get to know you guys better. Her response took 45 minutes. I imagine she spent most of that time having a full-blown panic attack. Oh, that sounds lovely. Let me check with Pierce. She checked. Pierce, workaholic Pierce, who barely knew his wife's daily schedule because he was too busy billing hours at Hartwell and Associates, said yes. Why wouldn't he? Free dinner with neighbors. Networking opportunity. Completely normal. Saturday, March 15th. The dinner was set. I spent the week meal prepping like I was auditioning for the Food Network, all while watching Troy get progressively more anxious. He kept suggesting we cancel. I think I'm coming down with something. Maybe we should reschedule. Do we even have enough wine? We have plenty of wine, I assured him. And you look fine. Healthy as ever. All that personal training must be working. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. He never did. The whole situation was giving major dumpster fire energy, and I was here for every second of it. Saturday arrived like Christmas morning, if Christmas morning involved potential emotional carnage and excellent charcuterie. I spent the afternoon setting up our dining room like I was staging a crime scene, which, in a way, I was. The good china. Candles. A centerpiece I'd picked up from Whole Foods that cost more than my monthly therapy bill. Troy kept hovering in the kitchen doorway, watching me arrange wine glasses with the intensity of a man watching his execution date approach. You're really going all out, he observed, running his hand through his hair for the 17th time. His tells were so obvious it was almost embarrassing. Almost. Well, first impressions matter. I smiled at him, the kind of smile that probably should have warned him something was deeply wrong. You want to look good in front of Pierce, don't you? Successful attorney type? Bet he's got connections. Right. Connections. Troy looked vaguely nauseous. Listen, maybe we should... The doorbell rang. Showtime. I smoothed down my dress. Black, classy, the kind of outfit that says, I'm definitely not planning to destroy your life tonight, and walked to the door with Troy trailing behind me like a condemned man walking to the gallows. When I opened it, the look on Giselle's face was absolutely priceless. She'd clearly been hoping this was some bizarre nightmare. Her smile was so forced I'm surprised her face didn't crack. Willa! Hi! She was wearing head-to-toe Lily Pulitzer, because of course she was. This is my husband, Pierce. Pierce Montgomery was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, distinguished, salt and pepper hair, expensive suit even on a Saturday, and the slightly exhausted look of a man who worked too much and noticed too little. He extended his hand with genuine warmth. Pierce, great to finally meet the neighbors. Giselle's mentioned you. He turned to Troy. And you must be Troy. She says you're the best trainer in Maple Ridge. The silence that followed could have been weaponized. Troy's face went through about 17 different shades of pale, while Giselle looked like she might actually pass out on my doorstep. I stepped in smoothly, playing the gracious hostess. Oh, how sweet! Yes, Troy's very dedicated to his clients. Please, come in. Watching them walk into my living room was like watching two people enter a Shark Tank wearing meat suits. Pierce was oblivious, commenting on our renovations and asking about the neighborhood. Giselle kept shooting Troy these panicked looks that he was desperately trying to ignore. Troy looked like he was sweating through his button-down. And me? I was having the time of my life. Wine? I offered, pouring generous glasses. We have a lovely Cabernet. Pierce, what do you do downtown? Corporate law. Mergers and acquisitions mostly. Long hours, but it pays the bills. He laughed, putting his arm around Giselle, who looked like she might vomit into the charcuterie. Probably too long. I keep telling Giselle I need to be home more, but she's so understanding about my schedule. Oh, I'm sure she keeps plenty busy, I said sweetly. The HOA must take up so much time, and all those daytime activities. Giselle's wine glass trembled slightly. Yes, very busy. Troy knows all about busy schedules, don't you, honey? I turned to my husband, whose jaw was so tight I thought his teeth might shatter. All those client sessions, early mornings, late evenings. Such dedication. I do my best, Troy managed, his voice strangled. Pierce, bless his oblivious heart, just smiled. That's great. Wish I had time for the gym. Giselle keeps saying I should come see you, but I can barely find time to sleep. Oh, I'm sure Troy could make special accommodations, I said, leading them to the dining room. He's very flexible with his scheduling, especially for neighbors. Dinner was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. I'd made coq au vin, the French chicken dish that takes hours of preparation, because I wanted them to sit there and marinate in their guilt for a good long while. Every course was an opportunity for loaded questions. So how did you two meet? I asked Pierce and Giselle, knife poised over my chicken. Pierce launched into a sweet story about meeting at a charity gala 7 years ago. Love at first sight, he said, squeezing Giselle's hand. She looked like she might cry. We got married 6 months later. Best decision I ever made. That's beautiful, I said. Troy and I got married 9 years ago. Dated for 2 years before that. Long courtship, but I wanted to be sure, you know? Make sure he was really committed. That he wouldn't just wander off with the first attractive option. Troy choked on his wine. Went down the wrong pipe, he gasped. Happens when you're not paying attention, I said helpfully, patting his back a little harder than necessary. So, Giselle, what do you do all day? Besides the HOA? Oh, you know, errands, lunch with friends, Pilates. She was shredding her napkin under the table. Trying to stay in shape. Troy could give you tips, Pierce offered enthusiastically. He's the expert. He certainly is, I agreed. Very hands-on approach, from what I understand. Really gets to know his clients. Their schedules, their routines, their bodies. The temperature in the room had dropped about 40 degrees. Giselle was doing that thing where she smiled, but her eyes were screaming. Troy looked like he was contemplating jumping out the window. And Pierce, wonderful, clueless Pierce, just kept eating and making small talk about property values. This chicken is incredible, Willa, he said. You went to so much trouble. Oh, it was no trouble at all. I smiled, refilling his wine. I've been planning this dinner all week, every detail. I wanted it to be memorable. Giselle excused herself to the bathroom. I gave her exactly 90 seconds before following. I found her gripping the sink, staring at herself in the mirror, mascara slightly smudged. When she saw me in the doorway, she jumped. Willa, Lovely dinner, isn't it? I said conversationally, leaning against the doorframe. Pierce seems great. Really devoted. Talks about you like you hung the moon. Please, she whispered. Please don't what? Don't mention how you've been sleeping with my husband for the past 6 months? Don't bring up the Tuesday and Thursday training sessions at the Marriott on Route 7? Don't discuss the fact that while your husband was working 80-hour weeks to pay for your Range Rover and your Lululemon addiction, you were busy making me look like the neighborhood idiot? I'll end it, she said frantically. I already tried to end it. Troy won't. Oh, honey. I smiled, and it wasn't kind. It's already ended. You just don't know it yet. This whole thing? Total train wreck. And you're about to realize just how badly you miscalculated. I walked back to the dining room, leaving her there, probably hyperventilating into my decorative hand towels. When I returned, Pierce was showing Troy pictures of his new boat on his phone. 40-footer, bought it last summer. Haven't had time to take it out much, but Giselle loves it. We should all go out sometime. That sounds perfect, I said, settling back into my chair. A double date on the water. Troy, you love boats, don't you? Or is that just something you tell your clients? His eyes met mine across the table, and I saw it. The moment he realized I knew everything. That this entire dinner was a trap. That he'd walked right into it. And now the walls were closing in. Giselle returned, pale and shaking slightly. She'd reapplied her lipstick but couldn't hide the panic in her eyes. Dessert? I offered brightly. I made tiramisu. It's been soaking for days. Just like the truth that was about to come out. Dessert was when everything imploded, and honestly, it was beautiful. I brought out the tiramisu on my grandmother's serving platter. the fancy one I usually reserved for Thanksgiving, and set it down with a smile that could have curdled milk. Pierce was still chatting about quarterly earnings or some other law firm thing, completely oblivious to the fact that his wife looked like she was about to have a stroke. "Before we dig in," I said, pulling out my phone with the casual energy of someone about to detonate a nuclear bomb, "I wanted to show you all something. Pierce, you'll love this. It's about community building." Troy's fork clattered against his plate. Giselle's eyes went wide as dinner plates. "See, I've been thinking a lot about transparency lately. Honesty. The importance of really knowing your neighbors." I swiped through my phone, pulling up the landscaping ideas folder. "For instance, did you know that Troy has been providing very personalized training sessions? Above and beyond the standard package." "Willa," Troy started, his voice cracking. "Let me finish, honey. I'm getting to the good part." I turned the phone toward Pierce, showing him a text message. Just one. The rest could wait. "This is from March 3rd. Can't wait to see you Thursday. Same place. Wear that thing I like." Pierce squinted at the screen, then at the contact name. GHOA. You could actually see his brain working, processing, connecting dots he'd never even known existed. His face went from confused to dawning horror in about 5 seconds flat. It would have been funny if it wasn't so devastating. Is that your phone, Troy?" Pierce asked slowly. "I can explain." Troy stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "Can you?" I asked sweetly. "Because I'd love to hear the explanation for 6 months of affair that involved my husband and—" I gestured gracefully at Giselle, Pierce's wife, who, fun fact, have been meeting every Tuesday and Thursday at the Marriott on Route 7, room 447 specifically. Troy apparently has a loyalty rewards account. Giselle burst into tears. Not delicate, pretty tears either. Full ugly crying, mascara everywhere. The kind of breakdown that probably cost $200 worth of skincare to repair. Total hot mess express. "Pierce, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean... It just happened." "It just happened?" Pierce stood up too, his lawyer voice activating. "For 6 months? You just accidentally fell into bed with the neighbor for half a year? You're never home," she sobbed. "You work constantly. I was lonely." "So you decided marriage vows were, what, optional?" His voice was cold now, the kind of cold that came from years of depositions and cross-examinations. "And you," he turned to Troy, "you were in my house. I shook your hand at the Memorial Day block party." Troy looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. "Pierce, man, I never meant to disrespect." "Don't you dare." Pierce's jaw was so tight I thought he might crack a molar. "Don't you dare pretend this was anything but exactly what it was." I leaned back in my chair, sipping my wine, watching the show. This was better than anything on Netflix. Real Housewives could never. "How long have you known?" Pierce turned to me, and I saw something shift in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or recognition of a fellow strategist. "Week and a half. Found the texts on Tuesday, March 4th. Spent some time thinking about the best approach." I shrugged. I could have done the dramatic confrontation thing. Smashed some dishes, posted on Facebook. But that felt pedestrian. Where's the poetry in that? "So you orchestrated this entire dinner to let you see for yourself, yes. Because nobody would have believed me otherwise, right? I'd be the hysterical wife making accusations. This way, you get to witness the evidence firsthand. See how uncomfortable they are. Watch them squirm." I smiled. "Plus, I figured you deserved to know. Professional courtesy. One betrayed spouse to another." Pierce stared at me for a long moment, then did something I didn't expect. He laughed, not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh that happens when reality is so absurd that your brain short-circuits. "Professional courtesy," he repeated. "That's actually brilliant. I have my moments." I cut into the tiramisu. "Anyone still want dessert? It really is excellent." Troy and Giselle were both crying now. Giselle dramatically. Troy in that silent, shoulder-shaking way that meant he knew his entire life was about to crater. Pierce sat back down, poured himself more wine, and looked at me with something that might have been admiration. "I work in corporate law," he said conversationally, like we weren't sitting in the wreckage of 2 marriages. specialize in contracts, asset protection. You know what the worst part of this is? That your wife's terrible at covering her tracks? I offered. That I'm going to have to file for divorce, and because of Connecticut's equitable distribution laws, she'll still walk away with a significant portion of my assets. Despite this, he gestured vaguely at the disaster around us. See, that's interesting, I said, leaning forward, because I've been doing some research this week. Turns out, if you can prove marital misconduct, which, thanks to Troy's meticulous text records, we absolutely can, it can influence the distribution. Not drastically, but enough to matter. Pierce's eyes sharpened. You've been researching Connecticut divorce law? I've been researching a lot of things. For instance, did you know that Troy convinced me to put his name on the deed to our house 3 years ago? For estate planning purposes? Funny thing, though, I also discovered he's been hiding income. Cash payments from private clients that never made it to our joint tax returns. Troy's head snapped up. You went through my files? Honey, I went through everything. Your laptop? Your gym locker? That shoebox in your truck where you keep your emergency money? I smiled at him. Turns out, tax fraud is a federal offense. Who knew? You're bluffing, Troy said, but his voice shook. Am I? Want to bet on it? I pulled up another folder on my phone. I've got spreadsheets, Troy. Receipts. 3 years' worth of unreported income. I even found the Venmo transactions from your vitamin supplement side business. That's definitely not just vitamin supplements. Pierce was watching this unfold with the intensity of someone witnessing a master class. What exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing that we're both in stronger positions than our cheating spouses think we are. You've got the law degree and the financial resources. I've got the evidence and the righteous anger. Together? I raised my wine glass. We could make this very, very expensive for them. Giselle wiped her face, leaving black smudges everywhere. Willa, please, can't we could go to counseling. Counseling? I laughed, and it wasn't kind. Sweetie, the time for counseling was before you decided to sleep with my husband. We're well past therapy now. We're in negotiate the terms of your surrender territory. I could make things very difficult for both of you in court, Pierce said quietly, looking between Troy and Giselle. Or, if you're reasonable, we could handle this civilly. Your choice. Troy collapsed back into his chair. What do you want? From you? I tapped my chin thoughtfully. Well, first, you're signing a post-nuptial agreement acknowledging the affair and waiving your rights to our house, my retirement accounts, and my business assets. Second, you're going to voluntarily report your unreported income to the IRS, which means you'll pay the penalties, not me. Third, you're moving out by Monday. That's insane. That's generous, Pierce interrupted. Because what she could do is report you for tax fraud herself, and then you'd be dealing with federal charges on top of a divorce. Trust me, you don't want that. I'd never been more attracted to someone's legal expertise in my life. Giselle was still crying, but quieter now, like she was finally understanding that the situation was completely out of her control. Pierce, please, think about the house, our life. The house you had an affair in? That life? Pierce's voice was ice. We're done, Giselle. The only question is whether this is amicable or scorched earth. And right now, I'm leaning towards scorched earth. I stood up, gathering dessert plates that no one had touched. Here's what's going to happen. You two are going to leave. Troy, you can pack a bag tonight and stay wherever you want. Might I suggest the Marriott? Room 447's probably available. Giselle, you and Pierce have a lot to discuss. And Pierce, I handed him my business card. My lawyer's information is on the back. Have your attorney call him. I think we can coordinate our efforts efficiently. Pierce took the card, something like a smile tugging at his mouth. You know what? I think you might be my favorite person in Maple Ridge. Give it time. I grow on people. I walked them to the door, the picture of gracious hostess even as Troy sat at the table with his head in his hands. Drive safe. It's dark out there. When the Montgomerys left, Pierce walking with purpose, Giselle stumbling behind him still crying, I closed the door and turned to face my soon-to-be ex-husband. You're insane, Troy whispered. No, I corrected. I'm done. There's a difference. Now pack your things and get out of my house. He left at 11:47 p.m. with 2 suitcases and the expression of a man who'd just realized he'd massively underestimated his opponent. I poured myself another glass of wine, sat on my couch, and allowed myself exactly 5 minutes of tears. Then I pulled up Pierce's contact information and sent a text. Same lawyer. Monday at 9 a.m. We have strategy to discuss. His response came 30 seconds later. I'll bring coffee. Revenge, I was discovering, was so much sweeter when you had a partner. Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp, Pierce Montgomery walked into my lawyer's office carrying 2 Starbucks Ventus and a briefcase that probably cost more than Troy's car payment. Venti caramel macchiato extra shot, he said, handing me one. You struck me as an extra caffeine person. You have no idea. I took the coffee gratefully. My weekend had been a blur of document gathering, bank statement printing, and screenshots. So many screenshots. How was your Sunday? Giselle cried for 6 hours straight, tried to blame her childhood trauma, then attempted to convince me this was somehow a midlife crisis I should be understanding about. He sat down across from me. Yours? Troy alternated between angry texts demanding I be reasonable and sad texts begging for another chance. I blocked him after he sent a paragraph comparing our marriage to a garden that just needed watering. I sipped my coffee. A garden. Like he didn't set the whole thing on fire himself. Pierce laughed. That same dark laugh from Saturday night. My attorney's meeting us here in 15 minutes. Gregory Barrett. Best divorce lawyer in Connecticut. Ruthless, expensive, and exactly what we need. Perfect. Mine's David Kowalski. He handled my business formation 3 years ago, but he's connected. I pulled out my laptop. I spent yesterday building a timeline. Every affair-related expense I could trace on Troy's accounts. Hotel rooms, jewelry he definitely didn't give me, restaurant charges on days he claimed to be working late. It's detailed. I did the same. Pierce opened his briefcase, pulling out a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. Turns out, Giselle's been quite busy. Credit card statements show regular charges at Nordstrom, Sephora, and some boutique hotel spa. All on days I was working, all coinciding with your timeline of Troy's client sessions. We spread our evidence across the conference table like we were planning a military campaign, which in a way we were. This is therapeutic, I observed. Is that weird? If it is, we're both weird. Pierce circled a charge on one of his statements. $200 at Victoria's Secret on March 1st. Want to bet she wasn't shopping for me? Troy spent $300 at some place called Intimate Occasions on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Know what he got me? Grocery store flowers and an apology for having to work late. I felt that familiar anger rising. He was with her. February 14th, Giselle told me she was having dinner with her book club. Pierce's jaw tightened. The book club that, according to her friend Monica, who I called yesterday, hasn't met since January. The lawyers arrived. Gregory Barrett, sharp-suited and shark-eyed, and David Kowalski, who looked like a friendly uncle until he started talking legal strategy. Then he looked like a friendly uncle who could destroy your entire life with a smile. This is extraordinary, Gregory said, reviewing our compiled evidence. I've handled plenty of infidelity cases, but I've never seen 2 betrayed spouses collaborate quite like this. It's almost romantic. It's efficient, Pierce corrected, but I caught him glancing at me with something that definitely wasn't just professional respect. David whistled low. The tax fraud angle is gold, Willa. With this documentation, Troy's looking at serious IRS penalties, possibly criminal charges if they decide to pursue it. How serious? I asked. Serious enough that he'll want to settle quickly and favorably, rather than risk federal prosecution. David grinned. You basically have him in checkmate. And Giselle? Pierce asked. Connecticut allows consideration of marital misconduct in asset division, Gregory explained. Combined with the fact that you've been the sole income earner for 7 years while she's been, shall we say, spending freely, you're in excellent position. We push for a favorable settlement, she gets minimal alimony, and you keep the majority of assets. I want the boat, Pierce said suddenly. The 40-footer. I paid for it, she barely used it, and I'll be darned if she takes it in the divorce. The boat is yours, Gregory assured him. Trust me. Over the next 2 hours, we strategized like generals planning a siege. Every asset cataloged, every piece of evidence cross-referenced, every potential argument from Troy and Giselle's inevitable lawyers anticipated and countered. They'll try the reconciliation angle, David warned. Claim it was a mistake, beg for counseling, attempt to paint you both as vindictive. Let them try, I said. I've got 6 months of texts, dozens of hotel receipts, and documented tax fraud. Troy can beg all he wants. Giselle will cry, Pierce added. She's very good at crying. Weaponizes it, actually. Her lawyer will try to use the neglected wife narrative. Neglected? I raised an eyebrow. She had a Range Rover, unlimited shopping budget, and a house in Maple Ridge. What was she neglected of, exactly? Common decency? Gregory laughed. I like you. You're going to do great on the stand if this goes to court, which it won't, because they'd be idiots to let this see a judge. By Wednesday, March 19th, the papers were filed. Both divorces simultaneously, with our lawyers coordinating every detail. Troy received his summons at his temporary apartment, some sad extended-stay place off the highway. Giselle got hers at the house, which Pierce had already vacated to stay at the Hilton downtown. The neighborhood group chat exploded. I silenced it after the 47th message. Troy tried calling. Blocked. Showed up at my house Thursday evening, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Willa, please, we can fix this. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. An affair is a choice. You made it every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months. I stood in the doorway, not letting him in. Sign the papers, Troy. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The IRS contacted me. His voice cracked. You really reported me? I really did. See, that's the thing about evidence. Once you have it, you use it. I tilted my head. How does it feel, being held accountable? He left without answering. Giselle tried a different approach. She went to Pierce's office on Friday, causing a scene in the lobby until security escorted her out. His paralegal sent me the security footage. I watched it 3 times, each viewing more satisfying than the last. Talk about a dumpster fire. She showed up in full makeup, designer dress, the works. Pierce told me over coffee that afternoon. A habit we'd developed. Daily strategy sessions at the Starbucks equidistant from both our lawyers' offices. Tried to tell me she was pregnant. I choked on my latte. Was she? Took a test right there in my office bathroom. Negative. She was lying. He shook his head. 7 years. I gave her 7 years, and she couldn't even be honest at the end. Troy tried to tell me the affair meant nothing, that it was just physical. I stirred my coffee absently. Like that makes it better. Like reducing it to just physical betrayal is somehow less insulting. The audacity is remarkable, Pierce agreed. If they'd put this much effort into their marriages as they did into the affair, we might not be here. But then we wouldn't have met, I said, then immediately felt weird about it. I mean, as divorce allies, strategy partners. Right, divorce allies. He smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. Not the lawyer smile. Something real. Though I have to say, you're the most interesting person I've met in years. That's because everyone you usually meet is boring corporate lawyers. Objection. I'm a corporate lawyer. You're the exception. I checked my watch. Settlement conference is scheduled for Monday, April 7th. 3 weeks away. Think they'll try to drag it out. Their lawyers will advise them to settle. Our evidence is overwhelming, and the longer they fight, the more expensive and embarrassing this becomes. Pierce leaned back. My money's on Troy cracking first. The tax fraud has him terrified. He was right. Troy's lawyer called David on Tuesday, March 25th, requesting negotiations. By Thursday, we had a preliminary agreement. Troy would waive all claims to the house, my business assets, and retirement accounts. He'd report the unreported income, pay the penalties himself, and accept a minimal settlement, barely enough to cover his legal fees. He's desperate, David told me over the phone. Wants this over before the IRS investigation goes deeper. Smart move, honestly. Giselle held out longer. Another week of dramatics, crying calls to Pierce's mother, attempts to turn their mutual friends against him. But Gregory was a machine. systematically dismantling every argument her lawyer made. By Monday, April 7th, exactly 3 weeks and 2 days after the dinner party from Heck, both settlements were signed. I got the house, my business, my retirement accounts, and my dignity back. Troy got a studio apartment in the sad part of town and a payment plan with the IRS that would take him years to clear. Pierce got the boat, the downtown condo they'd used as an investment property, his full retirement portfolio, and the satisfaction of watching Giselle move back in with her mother in Rhode Island. The Range Rover? Repossessed when she couldn't make payments. The Maple Ridge Community Group chat had a field day. I left the group entirely. Let them speculate. Pierce and I celebrated by taking his boat out on Long Island Sound on the first warm Saturday in April. Nothing romantic, just two people who'd survived a nightmare, drinking beer and watching the sunset. To terrible spouses, he toasted. And excellent revenge, I added, clinking my bottle against his. You know what's funny? Pierce said after a while. I spent 7 years working constantly, thinking I was building something. A life, a future. Turns out the future I was building was for someone else. Troy used to tell me I worked too much, that I cared more about my business than our marriage. I stared at the water. He made me feel guilty for being successful while he was out there proving exactly why I shouldn't have trusted him. We picked wrong, Pierce said simply. Yeah, we really did. I paused. But at least we fixed it. Efficiently, ruthlessly, with excellent legal representation. We laughed, and it felt good. Cleaner than anything had felt in months. 6 months after the dinner party that destroyed 2 marriages and created one very functional friendship, I ran into Giselle at Target. She was in the clearance section, already a downgrade from her Nordstrom days, looking significantly less polished than the woman who'd once judged my choice of athleisure wear. No makeup, hair in a messy bun that wasn't the intentional kind, pushing a cart with generic brand everything. Our eyes met across a display of discounted throw pillows. She froze. I smiled. Willa, she said, her voice small. Giselle, how's Rhode Island treating you? She flinched. It's fine. I'm staying with my mother temporarily while I figure things out. Temporarily? That's optimistic. I grabbed a pillow I didn't need, just to have something to do with my hands. Troy's doing great, by the way, in case you were wondering. Got a job at Planet Fitness. Real step up from his private training days. Pays about 40% less, but at least it's honest work. I heard. She looked at her cart like it held the answers to life's great mysteries. Pierce seems happy. I saw on social media he took the boat out again last weekend. He did. Beautiful day for it. Great company, too. I didn't elaborate, just let her sit with the implication. Are you two... She couldn't even finish the question. None of your business. I said it pleasantly with a smile. But I will say this. He's excellent at communication. Really values honesty in his relationships. It's refreshing. Her face crumpled slightly. Good. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what it's worth. I know it doesn't change anything, but I am. You're right. It doesn't change anything. I adjusted my purse on my shoulder. But I appreciate the attempt at human decency. Little late, but better than never, I suppose. I walked away, leaving her there in the clearance section where she belonged. The thing about revenge is that people expect you to feel guilty afterward. Like there's supposed to be some moment of moral reckoning where you realize you went too far. That you should have been the bigger person. That forgiveness is divine or whatever. But here's what nobody tells you. Sometimes revenge isn't about being petty. Sometimes it's about refusing to be a doormat. About looking at people who betrayed you and saying, no, actually, there are consequences for that. Troy lost his business reputation, his comfortable lifestyle, and his dignity. Giselle lost her meal ticket, her social standing, and her precious Range Rover. And me? I got my house, my peace of mind, and the best friendship I'd had in years. Pierce and I never dated. Let's be clear about that. We just spent an unreasonable amount of time together for two people who insisted they were just friends. Coffee 3 times a week. Boat trips every other weekend. That trip to Vermont in July where we stayed in separate rooms at the bed and breakfast, but spent every waking moment together. We're pathologically cautious. he said one evening in late September, sitting on my back deck with wine and takeout from our favorite Thai place. We're traumatized, I corrected. There's a difference. Fair point. He clinked his glass against mine. To being traumatized but functional. The American dream. My business had doubled since the divorce. Turns out, not having a husband who constantly made me feel guilty about working late was excellent for productivity. I'd hired 2 new employees, secured 3 major clients, and finally bought that standing desk I'd been eyeing for years. Pierce made partner at his firm, younger than anyone expected. Apparently, having your personal life completely implode gives you remarkable focus for work. Who knew? The Maple Ridge neighborhood group chat still occasionally buzzed with gossip about us. I'd rejoined it just to watch the speculation, which ranged from, "They're definitely dating," to, "I heard they're getting married," to my personal favorite. Someone said they're writing a book together about toxic relationships. We weren't writing a book, but we probably could have. "Do you ever regret it?" Pierce asked one night in October, after we'd spent the day helping each other hang pictures in our respective homes. "The way you handled everything, the dinner, the lawyers, all of it." I thought about it. Really thought about it. About Troy's face when he realized he'd been caught. About Giselle crying in my bathroom. About the satisfaction of watching them both lose things they'd taken for granted. "Not even a little bit," I said honestly. "Do you?" "Nope." He smiled. "Best decision I ever made was listening to you that night. Well, second best. Best decision was showing up to that dinner in the first place." "Fate," I said sarcastically. "Revenge," he corrected. "Much more reliable than fate." I raised my glass. "To revenge, then. And excellent exit strategies. And knowing when to burn it all down and start over." We drank to that. Here's what I learned. Marriage to the wrong person will make you forget who you are. Divorce from that person will remind you. And finding someone who understands exactly what you survived, that's not romance. That's recognition. The house was mine. The business was mine. My life, finally, was mine. And Troy? Last I heard, he was dating someone he met at Planet Fitness. Some 23-year-old who probably thinks his story about his crazy ex-wife sounds sympathetic, instead of like the confession it actually is. I hope she Googles him. I hope she's smarter than I was. But if she's not, well, that's not my problem anymore. I had coffee dates to keep, businesses to run, and a boat that needed taking out before winter hit. Pierce was picking me up at 9. Life, as it turned out, was pretty good when you stopped letting terrible people have access to it. Some people call that bitter. I call it boundaries. And honestly, I've never been happier. You know that special kind of stupid you feel when you realize the boring work party your fiancé kept you away from for 3 years was actually just his way of keeping his 2 girlfriends from meeting? Yeah, that kind of stupid. Let me paint you a picture. Friday, December 15th, standing in the marble lobby of the Savannah Convention Center, wearing the little black dress I'd bought specifically for this surprise appearance. My fiancé, Jasper Landry, had spent 3 years convincing me that his company's holiday party was the corporate equivalent of watching paint dry. Just spreadsheets and sales talk, babe. You'd hate it. And I, Ramona Chandler, professional nutritionist and apparently professional idiot, believed him every single time. But here's the thing about lies. They're only good until someone posts an Instagram story. My client Blythe had been at last year's party. Posted pictures of herself in a ball gown, champagne fountain in the background, live jazz band on a stage that definitely didn't scream boring Tuesday meeting. The caption? Best company party ever. Thanks for the invite, Jasper. Jasper. My Jasper. Who'd told me last year's party was just pizza in the break room. So this year, when he fed me the same line about how deadly dull the party would be, I smiled, nodded, waited until he left our apartment in his best suit. Then I got dressed, called an Uber, and decided to see just how boring this party really was. The convention center was lit up like Christmas and New Year's had a baby. String lights everywhere. An actual ice sculpture of the company logo. Through the glass doors, I could see women in cocktail dresses and men in suits that cost more than my monthly rent. A far cry from the casual Friday vibe Jasper had described. I walked in. Nobody stopped me. Why would they? I looked like I belonged. I just didn't know yet that I absolutely did not. The ballroom was gorgeous. High ceilings, decorated tables, a buffet that would make my nutritionist heart weep with its complete disregard for balanced macros. And there, on the dance floor, I spotted him. Jasper. My fiancé of 3 years. The man who'd proposed to me on Tybee Beach with a ring we'd picked out together. The man I shared a bed with 4 nights a week because he claimed he needed to stay at his place the other nights to be closer to work for early meetings. He was dancing. Close. Too close. With a woman in a red dress. Her hands were on his shoulders. His hands were on her waist. They were swaying to some jazz number, and he was looking at her the way he used to look at me before we got comfortable, before we became established, before the relationship apparently got boring enough that he needed entertainment elsewhere. I stood there frozen. Then a woman materialized next to me, holding a champagne flute and smiling like we were old friends. "Oh, hi, you must be with the new marketing team." She was perky, the kind of perky that makes you want to check if she's actually human or just really committed to the company culture. "Actually," I heard myself say, voice surprisingly steady, "I'm Jasper Landry's fiancé." The woman's smile didn't just fade, it evaporated. Her champagne flute tilted dangerously. "Fiancé? As in, engaged to be married fiancé? Is there another kind?" She looked at me, looked at the dance floor, back at me. Her face cycled through confusion, realization, and then something that looked like genuine horror. "But Jasper's been dating Vera for almost 2 years. Everyone here knows about them. They're like the office couple." The words hit me like I'd been slapped with a frozen fish. Unexpected. Absurd. Somehow insulting on multiple levels. "Vera?" I managed. "Vera Sullivan, marketing coordinator, the woman he's dancing with right now." Perky lady was now horrified lady. "Oh my God, you're serious? You're really his fiancé?" I held up my left hand. The engagement ring caught the light beautifully. 3 years on my finger. Apparently 3 years too many. "Wanna meet her?" I didn't wait for an answer. I walked across that ballroom like I was walking to my own execution, except I was both the condemned and the executioner. Every step felt surreal. The music was too loud. The laughter around me was too bright. Everything had that dreamlike quality where you know something terrible is about to happen, but you can't stop moving forward. Jasper saw me when I was about 10 feet away. I watched the color drain from his face in real time. Watched his hands drop from Vera's waist like she'd suddenly turned into hot coal. Watched him mouth my name. No sound coming out. Vera followed his gaze. Turned. Saw me. Smiled. Because why wouldn't she? She had no idea who I was. Yet. "Hi," I said, arriving in their little bubble of betrayal. "I'm Ramona, Jasper's fiancé, of 3 years. I held up my hand again. Showed her the ring. The ring Jasper had picked out at Bailey's Jewelers downtown. The ring we'd toasted with champagne at the old Pink House. The ring that apparently meant absolutely nothing. Vera's smile disappeared faster than free samples at Costco. "Fiancé?" Her voice went up an octave. She turned to Jasper, who looked like he was trying to decide between explaining and just straight up running for the exit. "Jasper, what is she talking about?" "This is a misunderstanding," Jasper started, which had to be the weakest opening line in the history of caught cheaters everywhere. "A misunderstanding?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "Is that what we're calling 3 years of engagement now? A misunderstanding?" Vera was shaking her head, backing up slightly. No, this doesn't make sense. Jasper told me he had a bad breakup 3 years ago, that he was single when we met. We've been together for almost 2 years. Interesting math, I said, because 3 years ago he proposed to me, and every night he doesn't spend at your place, I'm guessing he's at mine. Or did you think he just really loved his apartment and needed to sleep there alone for personal growth? People were staring now. The music hadn't stopped, but a circle of spectators had definitely formed. Nothing brings a corporate holiday party to a standstill quite like a live confrontation between a fiancé and a girlfriend who just found out she's the other woman. Or maybe that I was the other woman? The hierarchy of betrayal was getting confusing. Jasper reached for my arm. Ramona, please, let me explain somewhere private. I pulled away. Explain what, exactly? That you've been living a double life for 2 years? That every time you said the holiday party was boring, you were really just protecting your carefully constructed lie? That I'm apparently the side chick in my own engagement? Vera was crying now. Not the pretty single tear down the cheek crying you see in movies. The ugly kind. The mascara-running, breath-hitching kind that told me she genuinely had no idea. Which somehow made this whole situation even more grotesque. I didn't know, she kept saying. I swear to God I didn't know. I believe you, I said. And I meant it. We were both victims of the same man's inability to just pick a lane. He's very convincing, isn't he? Let me guess. He told you he needed space sometimes? That he valued his independence? That rushing into living together would ruin the relationship? Her face confirmed everything. He told me the same thing 3 years ago, I continued. Except I thought we were building toward something. Apparently, he was building toward duplicity with better time management. The crowd around us had grown. I spotted phones out. Of course. Nothing says happy holidays like watching someone's life implode in real time. This would be on the company Slack by midnight. Probably already was. Jasper tried again. Both of you, please, can we just step outside and talk about this like adults? Like adults? Vera's voice cracked. You want to talk about adult behavior? You've been lying to both of us for 2 years. 23 months, I corrected. Because if we're doing this, we might as well be accurate. If you started dating him in January 2 years ago, and we got engaged 3 years ago this past August, that's 23 months of overlap. Almost 2 full years of him playing house with both of us. A man in a suit who looked important stepped forward. Older guy, expensive watch. The kind of presence that screamed, upper management. Jasper, is this true? You've been engaged this entire time you've been dating Vera? Jasper's face went from pale to red. Mr. Whitmore, this is personal. I don't think you made it professional when you brought it to the company holiday party. Mr. Whitmore cut him off. Cold. Clinical. The voice of a man calculating liability. We'll discuss this Monday. Oh, this was delicious. Jasper wasn't just losing his girlfriends. He was potentially losing his job. The hits just kept coming, and I was here for every single one. Let me ask you something, Jasper, I said, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom. The jazz band had actually stopped playing now. Even they wanted to hear this. When you spent Thanksgiving with me and my family in Hilton Head, where did Vera think you were? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. His silence was confession enough. Vera made a sound like she'd been punched. Thanksgiving? You told me you were visiting your sick aunt in Atlanta. He doesn't have an aunt in Atlanta, I supplied helpfully. He has an uncle in Macon, but they haven't spoken in 5 years because of some football rivalry thing. Auburn versus Georgia. Very serious stuff. Christmas last year? Vera's voice was getting stronger now, anger burning through the tears. You said you had to work. He was with me in Charleston, I said. My parents' house. My mother made him a stocking. It's still hanging in her living room with his name on it. Jasper. Felt letters. Very festive. This was turning into the worst game of where was he really ever played. Every answer was a new betrayal. Every revelation was another layer of lies. I almost felt bad for Vera. Almost. But mostly I was riding a wave of vindictive satisfaction that I'd never experienced before, and probably never would again. A woman from the crowd called out, "What about the Labor Day weekend? He said he was at that sales conference in Miami." Jasper's head whipped around. "Ashley, not helping." "He was with me at my friend's lake house in Tennessee," I said. "Got a sunburn. Complained about it for a week." Vera was looking at Jasper like she'd never seen him before. Like he was a stranger wearing a Jasper mask. "You told me you were in Miami. You sent me pictures of the beach." "Stock photos are a thing, Vera," I said gently. "I'm guessing he's pretty good with Photoshop by now. 3 years of practice will do that." 2 years, she whispered. 2 years of my life. 3 years of mine, I countered. And an engagement ring that apparently meant nothing. Jasper finally found his voice. "Ramona, I love you. I was going to tell you about Vera. I was trying to find the right time. The right time? I interrupted. When? At our wedding? Oh, by the way, honey, funny story about my +1 bringing her own +1. Someone in the crowd laughed. Actual laughter. The tension broke slightly, and suddenly people weren't just watching a tragedy. They were watching entertainment. A train wreck they couldn't look away from. I made a mistake, Jasper said, and he actually had the audacity to look sincere. I got scared of commitment, and I handled it wrong. You didn't handle it wrong, Vera cut him off. Her tears had stopped. Something harder had replaced them. You're not scared of commitment. You committed to lying to both of us. That takes dedication, planning, effort. You're scared of being alone, and you're too selfish to choose, so you decided to have both. I looked at Vera with new respect. Did we just become best friends? Don't push it, she said. But there was the ghost of a smile. We might not be friends, but we were definitely united in our mutual hatred of the man standing between us. I turned back to Jasper. 3 years. 3 years of planning a future with someone who was literally planning a present with someone else. The apartment we were supposed to move into next year. The wedding we'd started planning for next June at Forsyth Park. The compromises I'd made. The friends' weddings we'd attended where he'd whispered, "That'll be us soon." All of it. Every single moment. Contaminated by the knowledge that he was whispering the same things to someone else. I want my ring back, Vera said suddenly. I looked at her. He gave you a ring. Promise ring. 6 months ago. She was already pulling it off her finger. Said it was a placeholder until he was ready for the real thing. The real thing. While wearing my engagement ring, he'd given another woman a promise ring. The sheer audacity was almost impressive. Almost. I pulled my engagement ring off. 3 years on my finger, and it came off easier than I expected. Funny how something that felt so permanent could just slide away when you finally decided to let it go. Here's what's going to happen, I said, holding the ring between 2 fingers. I'm going to give you this ring back. Not because I'm noble or because I'm taking the high road, but because every time you look at it, I want you to remember this moment, this party, this crowd, the look on everyone's faces when they realized what you are. I didn't throw it at him. That would be dramatic, sure, but I'm not violent. I dropped it. Let it fall to the marble floor where it bounced twice before rolling under a decorated table. Let him crawl for it if he wanted it back. Vera looked at her promise ring, looked at Jasper, and then, in a move I'll remember for the rest of my life, she walked to the champagne fountain, dipped the ring in the top tier, and dropped it in her champagne glass. For the memories, she said, and downed the entire glass, ring and all. Just kidding. She fished the ring out first. She's not stupid. But she did walk over to where Jasper stood and very calmly dropped it into his suit pocket. We're done, she said, professionally and personally. I'm requesting a transfer to the Atlanta office on Monday, and I'm putting in the request specifically citing hostile work environment created by you. Mr. Whitmore nodded approvingly. I'll fast-track that transfer personally. The crowd was silent again, waiting, because this wasn't over. Not yet. 3 years, I said softly, just to Jasper now. You could have just broken up with me, could have been honest, could have done literally anything except this. I'm sorry, he whispered. No, I said. You're not sorry. You're caught. There's a difference. I turned to leave, stopped, turned back. Oh, and Jasper? I'm keeping the cat. You can have the Keurig. Seems like a fair trade since apparently that's about what our relationship was worth to you anyway. I wish I could say I went home that night and cried into a pint of Ben & Jerry's like a normal person going through a breakup. But rage is a surprisingly energizing emotion, and I had 3 years of rent receipts, shared expenses, and documented lies to sort through. Also, I'm a nutritionist. I don't keep ice cream in my house. The irony of my life choices was not lost on me as I ate raw cookie dough straight from the tube at 2 a.m. Saturday morning, I woke up to 47 text messages. Jasper, naturally, begging for another chance. My mother, who'd somehow already heard through the Savannah gossip network that moves faster than fiber optic internet, and 3 messages from Vera. The first one said, "I can't believe I'm texting you." The second, "But I found something you need to see." The third, "Coffee? Forsyth Park Cafe, 10 a.m.? I stared at those messages for a solid 5 minutes. Meet with my fiancé's girlfriend? Ex-girlfriend? The woman who'd unknowingly been sharing my man like a badly managed timeshare? Every logical bone in my body said no. I texted back, "I'll be there at 10. Logic is overrated when you're running on spite and raw cookie dough. Vera was already there when I arrived, looking like she'd slept about as well as I had. Dark circles under her eyes, hair in a messy bun, wearing yoga pants and a hoodie that said, Savannah Marathon 2023. She had a laptop open and 2 coffees waiting. "I got you a latte," she said. "Jasper mentioned once you liked oat milk." "Of course he did." I sat down. "He probably told you my coffee order while telling me yours. Maximum efficiency in his dual life management." She almost smiled. Almost. I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about all the lies. So I started looking through our shared accounts. We have had a joint credit card. Just for dates and trips, you know. Keep track of couple expenses. Let me guess. The credit card statement is a greatest hits of his lies? Better. She turned the laptop toward me. It's a GPS tracking log of every place he used that card. Because apparently I set up location tracking when we got it and forgot about it. We both did. Including him. I looked at the screen. A map of Georgia and surrounding states, dotted with pins. Red pins and blue pins. Red is where he told me he was, Vera explained. Blue is where the card was actually used. Oh, this was beautiful. This was art. Miami Beach Conference showed a blue pin at a lake house in Tennessee. Sick Aunt in Atlanta showed a blue pin at a Hilton Head resort. Working late at the office showed approximately 30 blue pins at my apartment complex. He's been stupid and sloppy, I said slowly, my brain already spinning. This is documented proof of systematic lying. It gets better. Vera pulled up a spreadsheet. An actual color-coded spreadsheet. I'm in marketing, remember? Data analysis is literally my job. I cross-referenced his credit card statements with his work calendar that he shared with me and the company calendar that's public to all employees. And he's been using sick days and vacation days to spend time with you while telling me he was working. And he's been using work trips that don't appear anywhere on the company calendar to spend time with me. I leaned back. So he's not just a cheater. He's been defrauding his employer. Potentially. Vera's smile was sharp now. Vindictive. I was starting to really like her. Remember Mr. Whitmore? The CEO who looked ready to fire Jasper on the spot? I did some digging. Turns out the company has a strict ethics policy. Misrepresenting time cards, false expense reports, any dishonesty regarding company time or resources, it's grounds for immediate termination. You think he's been filing false expense reports? I think he's been filing for reimbursement for trips he said were work-related that absolutely were not. She pulled up another document. See this? Company reimbursement for a client dinner in Atlanta on November 10th. Except the credit card shows he was actually at a restaurant in Charleston. With me, I said. November 10th was my birthday. He took me to Peninsula Grill. He charged the company for your birthday dinner. Vera's voice was flat. And probably mine too. Want to check? We spent the next hour going through records. My birthday. Vera's birthday. Our anniversary, both of them apparently. Valentine's Day dinners. Random weekends. All filed as business expenses. All reimbursed by his company. This is fraud, I said finally. Like actual criminal fraud. It's definitely fireable. Vera closed the laptop. Question is, what do we do with this information? I thought about it. Thought about Jasper's face last night. The way he'd tried to play victim. To make it seem like he'd made a mistake instead of orchestrating an elaborate con for 2 years. The way he'd texted me this morning with, "Baby, please, we can work through this." We forward it to HR, I said. Anonymously. Let the company decide what to do with their ethics policy. That's it? Vera looked disappointed. That's your revenge? A corporate email? Oh, honey, I smiled. That's not revenge. That's step 1. Revenge requires planning. Strategy. And I know things about Jasper that you don't. Like the fact that his lease is up next month and he was planning to move in with me, into an apartment I've been paying 2/3 of the rent for because he said his student loans were killing him. He told me he was debt-free. Vera's eye twitched. Said he'd been financially responsible in his 20s. He's been financially responsible by having 2 girlfriends subsidize his lifestyle. I pulled out my phone. I've been paying for groceries, utilities, streaming services, his gym membership, because we were building a future together, and what's mine is yours, right? He split everything 50-50 with me. Vera was getting it now. Made a big deal about being equitable partners. So he's been living beyond his means by having both of us pay for different parts of his life. The picture was becoming clearer. He's not just a cheater. He's a con artist with a mediocre credit score. Vera laughed. Actually laughed. What do you know about his credit score? He applied for the mortgage pre-approval with me 6 months ago. For the house we were supposedly buying next year. His credit score is 620. He got denied. He told me he was saving for a house. That's why he couldn't afford vacations abroad. Vera was shaking her head. He's been running a budget con along with the relationship con. So here's what I'm thinking, I said, leaning forward. You send the expense report evidence to HR from an anonymous email. I'm going to call the landlord of his apartment and let them know he won't be renewing his lease and that he needs to be out by end of month, as per his lease agreement. He was planning to move in with you. He was. Past tense. Now he'll have no apartment, probably no job, and no girlfriends to crash with. I smiled. Natural consequences. My favorite kind. What about all the stuff he has at your place? I'm going to box it up very carefully and leave it with the front desk of his apartment building. Very mature. Very adult. I paused. Except his Xbox. I'm keeping that. And selling his games to GameStop. For store credit. Vera nodded slowly. I have his Nintendo Switch. Keep it. Deal. We sat there for a moment. 2 women who'd been dating the same man, plotting his downfall over lattes in a coffee shop in downtown Savannah on a Saturday morning. It felt surreal. It felt perfect. I can't believe I'm saying this, Vera said, but I'm glad you showed up at that party. I'm glad you texted me. I raised my coffee cup. To Jasper Landry, the man who brought us together through his exceptional ability to be terrible. She clinked her cup against mine. To getting even. To getting even. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. Not because I was actually sick, but because I had things to do. First stop, Jasper's apartment building. I had a key which felt wrong to use, so I didn't. Instead, I very politely informed the building manager that my ex-fiancé would not be renewing his lease and needed to arrange for move-out by December 31st. But Mr. Landry told us he was renewing, the manager said, confused. Mr. Landry has been telling a lot of people a lot of things, I said sweetly. But his signature isn't on any renewal paperwork, is it? It wasn't. Second stop, my apartment. I packed every single item Jasper had left there over 3 years. Clothes, toiletries, his collection of craft beer glasses, his electric razor, his protein powder that he swore was better than the cheap stuff. I boxed it all up with the care and attention of someone who definitely wasn't imagining throwing it all in a dumpster. I left one thing out. A framed photo of us from our engagement day at Tybee Beach. I wrote on the back, "For your next fiancé. Good luck." Third stop, my bank. I removed Jasper from every shared account. Turned out we only had one, a savings account we'd opened for wedding expenses. I transferred my half to my checking account and closed it. The banker looked at me sympathetically. Relationship ending? Like you wouldn't believe. That evening, Vera texted me. HR received an anonymous email this morning. Jasper was called in for a meeting at 2 p.m. He's been suspended pending investigation. I texted back. How do you know? Ashley from accounting. She's my friend. Apparently the whole office knows. Good. Because that was the thing about Jasper's lie. It wasn't just personal. He'd made it public. He'd brought both of us to company events. Separately. Over years. He'd involved co-workers in his deception. Made them unwitting accomplices. And now they all knew. The whispers in the break room. The awkward silences when he walked by. The knowledge that everyone was talking about him. Social consequences are often more devastating than legal ones. Jasper called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. He showed up at my apartment that night. I didn't open the door. "Ramona, please," he shouted through the door. "I can explain everything." "Your explanation was 2 years too late," I called back. "And your stuff is at your apartment building's front desk. You're welcome." "I'm going to lose my job." "You defrauded your company, Jasper. You did that. Own it." Silence. Then, "Where am I supposed to go?" I opened the door just wide enough to look at him. He looked terrible. "Good. Jasper, for 3 years, you made me feel like I wasn't enough. Like I was boring. Like the relationship wasn't exciting anymore. You made me doubt myself while you were running around with someone else." I kept my voice steady. "You made your choices. Now live with them." I closed the door, locked it, and finally, I cried. But they were good tears. Cleansing tears. The kind you cry when you realize you're not sad about losing someone. You're relieved that you finally know the truth. The investigation took 2 weeks. 2 glorious weeks where I watched Jasper's life unravel from the comfortable distance of someone who was no longer responsible for his emotions. Vera kept me updated through text messages that became progressively more gleeful. Day 3. He's been moved to a different floor during the investigation. Away from me. Thank God. Day 5. Ashley says they found 3 years of fraudulent expense reports. 3 years. Day 8. His LinkedIn profile says, "Seeking new opportunities." That's code for, "I got fired," right? Day 10. It happened. He's been terminated. Effective immediately. Security escorted him out. I screenshot that last message and saved it in a folder titled, "Good Days." But the real justice? That came from places I never expected. Turns out when you publicly humiliate yourself at a corporate holiday party that gets recorded by 17 different people, the internet has opinions. Someone posted a TikTok. Just 15 seconds of me saying, "I'm Jasper Landry's fiancé of 3 years," followed by Vera's face crumpling and then her throwing champagne. It went viral. 3 million views in 4 days. The comments were savage. This is why men need to put their relationship status in their bio. The way she held up that ring like she was presenting evidence in court. Iconic. Both women handled this better than he deserved. Plot twist. They should date each other instead. Jasper's company started getting tagged. Then his LinkedIn. Then someone found his Instagram and started commenting on photos from 2 years ago. Which girlfriend took this picture? He deleted all social media by day 6. The landlord at his apartment building called me on December 20th. "Ms. Chandler, this is Bill from Jasper Landry's building. He's saying you have his security deposit." I absolutely do not have his security deposit. We were never on a lease together. "He's claiming you were common law married and entitled to half his assets." I laughed so hard I snorted coffee. "Bill, I live in a completely different building. I've never signed anything related to his apartment. He's lying to you like he lied to everyone else." That's what I figured. He's got until the 31st to clear out. Thanks for confirming. Common law married. The audacity of this man knew no bounds. Christmas came. My mother invited me to Charleston, asked if I was okay. I told her I was better than okay. I was free. She made me my favorite dinner and didn't mention Jasper once, which is how I knew she'd been waiting for this breakup longer than I had. "You seemed tired when you were with him," she said over dessert. "Like you were working hard to be someone you weren't." "I was working hard to be enough," I corrected. Turns out I was always enough. He was just greedy. On December 28th, Vera texted me a photo. Jasper's car, a blue Honda Civic, parked outside a house in a subdivision that definitely wasn't upscale. Recognize this place? Should I? It's his mom's house, in Hinesville. He moved back home. Jasper Landry, 31 years old, formerly employed marketing manager with a decent salary and 2 girlfriends, was now unemployed and living with his mother, in Hinesville, which is, for those unfamiliar with Georgia geography, where you go when life has thoroughly defeated you and you need your mom to make you feel better. "How did you find this?" I texted back. His mom posted on Facebook, "So happy to have my boy home for the holidays," with a picture of him looking like a kicked puppy. Her profile is public. Amateur hour. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't have looked. but I looked. The photo was devastating. Jasper, unshaven, wearing a ratty t-shirt, sitting on a floral couch that had definitely been purchased during the Reagan administration. His mom beaming next to him. The caption, "My Jasper is taking some time to find himself. So proud of my resilient boy." The comments were even better. "Isn't this the guy from that viral video? Wait, this is that Jasper? Finding himself? More like hiding from his two ex-girlfriends, lol?" Someone had connected the dots between viral TikTok Jasper and Hinesville Jasper. His mom's Facebook was getting bombarded. She made her profile private by evening. "I almost feel bad," I texted Vera. "Don't." He made his choices. She was right. Every bit of this, the job loss, the public humiliation, the move back home, was a direct result of his own actions. Natural consequences, my favorite kind. New Year's Eve, I went out with my actual friends, the ones I'd neglected while I was busy planning a future with a man who was planning two futures. We went to the distillery on Tybee Island, drank cocktails with names like Bad Decisions and Forget Him, and counted down to midnight surrounded by people who actually cared about me. At 11:58, my phone buzzed. "Jasper, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I messed up the best thing in my life. Both best things. I was scared and stupid and I wish I could take it all back. I hope someday you can forgive me." I read it twice. Thought about responding. Thought about all the things I could say. Then I did something better. I blocked his number. At midnight, surrounded by friends, I kissed the New Year hello and Jasper Landry goodbye. January brought changes. Vera got her transfer to Atlanta approved, effective February 1st. We met for coffee one last time before she left. "I heard through the grapevine that Jasper's working at a call center now," she said. "Customer service for an insurance company. In Pooler. From marketing manager to have you tried turning it off and on again, guy." I sipped my latte. That's poetic. His mom keeps posting about how he's building character and learning resilience. Vera rolled her eyes. Translation, he's broke and I'm supporting him. "Do you ever wonder if we were too harsh?" I asked. Vera looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Ramona, he lied to both of us for 2 years. He defrauded his company. He played with our emotions, our time, our futures. He deserves everything he got and more. You're right. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I should be more devastated than I am." "You're not devastated because you didn't lose anything worth keeping." Vera reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "He showed you exactly who he was. A liar and a con artist with good hair and mediocre conversation skills. You lost nothing. You gained freedom." She was right. These past 6 weeks, I'd felt lighter than I had in years. No more checking my phone constantly. No more wondering why he was working late again. No more making myself smaller to fit into whatever space he'd decided to give me that week. "I'm going on a date next week," I said suddenly. "Guy from my gym. Asked me out 3 times over the past year, but I was engaged, so I said no. And now? Now I'm saying yes." I smiled. "His name is Barrett. He's a personal trainer, divorced, has a daughter. Very upfront about his life, refreshingly honest. Look at you, moving on like a functional adult." "Look at me," I agreed. Vera left for Atlanta 2 weeks later. We hugged goodbye in the parking lot of Forsyth Park Cafe, where this strange friendship had begun over shared betrayal and credit card receipts. "Thank you," she said, "for not hating me." "Thank you for not hating me," I replied. "And for the spreadsheet. That spreadsheet changed my life. Data analysis saves the day again." She laughed. "Hey, if you're ever in Atlanta, look me up. We'll get drinks and talk about literally anything except Jasper Landry. Deal." February 14th. Valentine's Day. The universe has a sick sense of humor. I was at work, consulting with a client about meal prep strategies, when my receptionist knocked on my door. "Ramona? Someone left flowers for you at the front desk." My stomach dropped. If Jasper had sent me flowers, but they weren't from Jasper. They were from Barrett. Red roses with a card that said, "Third date on Valentine's Day feels significant. Dinner tonight? No pressure. But also, definitely pressure. Barrett." I laughed. Actually laughed. Then I texted him back, "Dinner sounds perfect. Pick me up at 7?" That evening, getting ready for my date, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked different, lighter, happier. The version of myself I'd been before I'd spent 3 years making myself smaller for a man who didn't deserve my full size. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "I see you're dating someone new. I hope he treats you better than I did. You deserve it. Jay." I stared at that message for a long moment, thought about responding, thought about all the things I could say about how he'd set the bar so low that literally anyone would treat me better, about how he didn't get to have opinions on my life anymore. Instead, I deleted the message, blocked the number, and finished my makeup. Barrett picked me up at 7 on the dot, held the door open, complimented my dress, took me to dinner at Alligator Soul, which is fancy and romantic, and everything Jasper had always said was too expensive for a regular Tuesday. It was Wednesday, and it was perfect. Over dessert, Barrett said, "I know you just got out of something serious. We can take this as slow as you need." "I appreciate that," I said, "but I'm ready. I spent 3 years in something that was only serious for me. Now I'm ready for something real." "Real sounds good to me." We toasted to that. To real relationships. To honest communication. To futures that didn't involve secret second girlfriends or fraudulent expense reports. Later that night, scrolling Instagram before bed, I saw that someone had tagged me in a post. It was from the viral TikTok account that had originally posted the party video. Update. Both queens are thriving. Ramona is dating a personal trainer and glowing. Vera got promoted in Atlanta. Jasper is reportedly working customer service in Pooler, GA, and living with his mom. This is your reminder that karma is real and women supporting women is everything. The comments were beautiful. This is the ending we deserved. Both of them upgraded while he downgraded to his childhood bedroom. This man really had 2 amazing women and fumbled both of them. Talent. I screenshot it and sent it to Vera. She replied immediately, "We're famous for the right reasons now." Character growth. To character growth, I typed back. And to never settling for less than we deserve. Amen to that. 6 months later, I was standing in my new apartment. Not the one I'd shared space with Jasper's ghost in. A new one. Bigger, better view. Hardwood floors that I'd picked out myself without consulting anyone. Barrett was helping me hang pictures, which felt significant in that we're actually building something real kind of way. His daughter Chloe, 8 years old and brutally honest in the way only children can be, was arranging books on my shelf by color because, "It looks better that way, Ramona. Your old boyfriend was stupid," Chloe announced, not looking up from her rainbow organization system. Barrett winced. "Chloe, we talked about this." "What?" "Dad showed me the TikTok. The guy had 2 girlfriends and lost both of them. That's stupid." She moved a green book next to a blue one, frowned, moved it back. "You're way prettier than him anyway." "Thank you, Chloe. That's very kind." "I'm not being kind. I'm being factual." She looked at me seriously. "Dad says you're smart and funny and you teach people about vegetables." "Nutrition," I corrected, smiling. "Same thing." Hard to argue with 8-year-old logic. My phone buzzed. Vera, from Atlanta. A screenshot of a LinkedIn post. Jasper had updated his profile. Customer service representative seeking growth opportunities in marketing or sales. Skilled in relationship management and multitasking. Her message, relationship management, the audacity. I laughed out loud. Barrett looked over my shoulder, read it, shook his head. That guy really doesn't know when to quit, does he? He's unemployed in Hinesville living with his mother, I said. He's got nothing but time to not know when to quit. Last I'd heard through the Savannah Gossip Network, which never sleeps and never forgets, Jasper was still at the call center, still single, still the subject of whispered stories at every corporate happy hour in the city. Remember that guy who had 2 girlfriends and got caught at the holiday party? He'd become an urban legend, a cautionary tale. The answer to, what's the worst thing that could happen at a company party? His mother had stopped posting about him on Facebook after someone created a parody account called Jasper's Other Mom that kept commenting on her posts. The internet is undefeated. Meanwhile, Vera had gotten promoted. Senior marketing coordinator, corner office, dating a lawyer she'd met through, and this is the beautiful part, a mutual friend who was representing her in a small claims case against Jasper for the money he'd borrowed and never returned. She won. He paid in installments, $50 a month, automatically deducted from his call center paychecks. It's not about the money, Vera had told me. It's about the principle. And also watching him pay me every month for the next 2 years. Poetic justice tastes sweeter when it comes with a payment plan. As for me, I'd built a life I actually wanted instead of a life I thought I was supposed to want. My nutrition practice had grown. I'd taken on 2 new clients who'd specifically sought me out because you're that woman from the viral video who handled everything with class. Apparently, public humiliation is excellent marketing when you come out on the right side of it. Barrett and I had been dating for 5 months. Real dating. The kind where he introduced me to his daughter after 2 months because I don't bring people around Chloe unless they're going to stick around. The kind where we talked about futures and plans and actually meant them. The kind where I never once wondered where he was or who he was with because he told me. Revolutionary concept. Honesty. "What are you thinking about?" Barrett asked, catching me staring out the window. Just that a year ago, I was planning a wedding to someone who was planning a double life. And now I'm here. New apartment, new relationship, new life. It's weird how fast things can change when you stop accepting less than you deserve. Deep thoughts for a Saturday afternoon. I'm a woman of depth and complexity. You're a woman who ate ice cream for breakfast. Chloe had apparently been listening. I saw the bowl in the sink. It was frozen yogurt, I corrected. There's a difference. Not really, she said, and went back to her books. Barrett pulled me close. For what it's worth, I'm glad that guy was an idiot. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten my chance. Your chance came because you asked me out consistently for a year without being creepy about it. That's called respecting boundaries and showing genuine interest. I'm going to put that on my resume. Excellent at respecting boundaries and not being creepy. Set the bar low enough and you'll always clear it, I said. But I was smiling. That night, after Barrett and Chloe left, I sat on my new couch in my new apartment and thought about the past year. The humiliation, the anger, the betrayal, and then the freedom, the growth, the realization that I'd spent 3 years trying to be enough for someone who would never be satisfied because the problem wasn't me, it was him. Jasper had taught me something valuable, though he'd never intended to. He taught me that my worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it, that I don't need to shrink myself to fit into someone else's life, that the right person won't make me feel like I'm competing for attention in my own relationship. My phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. I almost didn't open it. I heard you're happy. I'm glad. You always deserved better. I'm sorry I couldn't be that. Jay. I stared at that message for a long time, thought about everything I could say, everything I wanted to say. Then I did what I should have done a year ago. I deleted it without responding and blocked the number. Some stories don't need closure. Some stories just need to end. I opened my text thread with Vera instead. Jasper just texted from another number. Did you respond? Nope. Blocked and deleted. I'm done being part of his narrative. Good. He doesn't get to haunt your inbox looking for absolution. Let him sit with his choices. Speaking of choices, Barrett asked if I wanted to meet his parents next month. Ramona, that's huge. I know. Terrifying and exciting in equal measure. That's how you know it's real. When the scary parts feel worth it. She was right. This was scary. Meeting parents. Building a relationship with a man who had a child. Planning a future that involved more than just me. But it was the good kind of scary. The I'm growing as a person scary. Not the I'm ignoring red flags scary. I'd learned to tell the difference. 1 year after the worst holiday party in Savannah history, I was thriving. Jasper was surviving. And somewhere in the cosmic balance of justice, that felt exactly right. The universe doesn't always give you what you want. Sometimes it gives you what you need. And what I'd needed was to learn that I deserved better than someone who treated relationships like a hobby he could pick up and put down whenever convenient. I deserved someone who showed up, who was honest, Who introduced me to his family and didn't hide me from his coworkers? Who didn't make me feel like loving him was a competitive sport? I deserved Barrett. And Chloe. And this new apartment with its hardwood floors and big windows. And clients who respected my expertise. And friends who actually showed up when I needed them. I deserved the life I was building, piece by piece, without asking anyone's permission. And Jasper? He deserved exactly what he got. Some people call it karma. I call it math. You can't live a double life forever. Eventually the equations don't add up and someone checks your work. I just happened to be there when the numbers finally exposed him for the fraud he was. The best revenge isn't dramatic. It's not public humiliation or elaborate schemes. The best revenge is building a life so good that you forget to be angry. It's waking up and realizing you haven't thought about them in days. It's meeting someone new and recognizing green flags because you finally learned what red ones look like. The best revenge is being genuinely, authentically happy. And I was. Turns out, you don't need closure. You just need to close the door.